nuclear convictions against his political enemies.
Well, your cases were
On
bullshit.
social media, though, Mr. Trump seemed quite positive about Ms. Bondi,
Oh
describing
my
her as
gosh.
a loyal friend, saying she had done a tremendous job overseeing a crackdown on crime.
She's
But
pure
she was moving
Trumpstein
to a
class.
new role in the private sector.
Private sector, like
Congressman
he's.
Ro Khanna is a Democrat who's been instrumental in the release
Oh,
of
Ro
Epstein
Khanna's in the
files by
BBC.
Ms. Bondi's Department of Justice. He gave his reaction to her sacking earlier to the BBC.
This shows that Congress isn't a doormat. Thomas Massie and I forced Donald Trump to fire his own attorney general
thank you.
and release over 3 million files. We need to make sure that the next
Release the
attorney
rest.
general releases the remaining Epstein files and actually takes on prosecutions of these men who abused and raped these young girls.
Thank
Britain,
you.
frankly, is ahead of us in making sure that some
Good point.
prosecutions
Thanks,
are
Britain.
taking place. We need to start prosecuting here.
Thanks, Ro
Well,
Khanna.
let's speak to
Thanks,
Jessica
BBC.
Levinson, professor at Loyola Law School.
I just shut down my live listening to the news and they came up with this story, so I went live
Why
again.
do you think Pam Bondi has been removed?
She's a terrible
I think
fascist.
for the reasons that we just heard, actually, in part because I think there was a
We
perception
put the pressure on her.
that she didn't do what President Trump wanted her to do when it came to the Epstein files. I think that the president
She
was
did what he
also
wanted her to
disappointed
do.
in her handling of the prosecutions of
What?
some of his political enemies, like
Disappointed in her
Letitia
handling, like
James,
she
the New
messed
York
it up.
Attorney
No, your
General,
cases sucked.
James Comey, the former head of the FBI.
You didn't have any cases against them.
Of
It
course,
wasn't her
one of
Pam
the
Bondi's fault.
president's
I'm not defending her, but
posts to
you're just
Pam Bondi
scapegoating her.
actually was made public, whether purposely or not, where he essentially said, you really need to go after certain people, including his political enemies. And some of those cases she did bring, and they were, frankly, I think, bungled and dismissed.
Remember what a
So
stink they made when, I don't know, Bill
there's been
Clinton or
chatter for
Obama
a
or
long
somebody
time
met
that
Susan
President
Rice, I think it
Trump
was?
about to fire Pam Bondi, and
Just because they
frankly, I think my
interacted on
surprise
a
is that it's happening in
tarmac.
April, not in February.
Right. But she had also been seen as a very strong defender of the Trump administration.
She yelled really loud in favor of him.
Vocal in her
She got
praise or her
so
support
heated.
for the president.
She didn't
Absolutely.
say
And I think
anything
we've seen
good.
this with other
The
officials that
Dow.
were let go, like
Kristi
Kristi
Noem.
Noem, for instance, where there are
What
a
other
number
ones have
of
been let
people
go?
who are very loyal to the president, at least publicly, but the
Kristi
president
Noem blamed.
is dissatisfied
They
with
said
their
Trump
job
approved her
or
$200 million
decisions
ad
that they
campaign.
make, or potentially how
So
they
that made him look bad.
testify. And at that point, the president does release them of their duties, let's euphemistically say. So in this case, I think it's clear that either it wasn't enough loyalty or loyalty isn't enough.
Perhaps that should be if performance is not good. If the president thinks an official's performance is not good, then perhaps it's right that they're removed. I suppose.
Batman says, why don't
So was
skeletons
she
fight each other?
good
Because they don't have the
Attorney General?
guts.
I think that there were a number of problems with the cases that she brought,
Yeah,
frankly.
it wasn't
and
her
it's
fault,
not my
but she
opinion.
still
I think it's
sucks.
the opinion of the courts. Again, if we think back to what the Department of Justice used to be, it used to be an executive agency that
Refused
enjoyed a lot
to
of independence from the
imprison
president.
Trump for
the
some
idea
reason.
being that when the Department of Justice brought a federal case against somebody, we could trust that that was based on the facts and the evidence, not
Dude,
based
why would you even
on
ask?
whether or not the president wanted that case to be brought. And I think that she
I'm obviously anti-Trump, so what would you guess?
Seen as being very loyal to the president,
Jesus
as
set
we
Judas
said,
aside
and
outside of
perhaps
Christianity to
eroding some
replace
of
all
that
patriarchy,
independence.
Christianity, war, and
then if you look at
Trumpism.
her track record, and
Have you heard
we
that
mentioned
before?
the cases
Have
that
you
she
been here
brought
before?
against Letitia James, against James Comey, there were situations where she failed to get indictments or cases were dismissed. That's pretty unusual for high-profile cases to be dismissed
I'm in
that
USA.
quickly by the courts. So I think there were some problems with her tenure.
Listening to
She will be
BBC.
replaced by her former deputy, Todd Blanche, as Attorney General. Tell us what you're expecting from him.
They really did some
Well, I think
favorable
the fact that
reporting
the
to Pam
president
Bondi on
picked
here.
Todd Blanche means that obviously he has confidence in him.
Yeah,
I
it's a
think
new
the president
sentence,
has
right?
been very explicit
Jesus
that he
set
wants
Judas
the Department
aside
of Justice
outside of
to
Christianity
continue
to come back at
to
this time and
essentially
replace
follow
all
his
patriarchy,
lead
Christianity,
and
war, and
bring the
Trumpism.
cases, not just in terms of policy, but bring the cases that he thinks that should be brought. Of course, at this point, we don't know anything about what Todd Blanche will be like in the top spot, but I think we can expect at the very least
I can't do it anymore.
loyalty to the president. I think that's
Everything's too
likely
high.
a big reason why he was chosen for the position.
BBC.
Why does the position itself matter?
I think the position itself matters in part because it's a little bit policy and it's a little bit litigation. When you're thinking about your
That's terrible, Sunshine. I
who
can
is
fuck that out
attorney
of you.
general, this is really the
I can fuck the
lead
Zionism, Christian
prosecutor.
nationalism
And
out
so
of you
if
if
you
you want.
think about upholding the rule of
Are you
law
here
and
for sex?
upholding federal laws and ensuring that those who violate federal laws are in fact brought to justice, I think the attorney general has a lot to say about that. In addition, you have an attorney general who has the power to
Denver, basically.
set a good deal of Department of Justice policy. So it's both litigation and policy. And again, it's really our nation's top federal prosecutor.
Do you need somebody to have
Okay,
sex with you so
thank
you'll
very
stop
much
having
indeed.
genocide?
Professor at London Law School
Do you need somebody to have sex with you so that you'll stop supporting genocide?
BBC World Service for Catherine and James.
What sounded like patriarchy to you? What sounded like patriarchy? What was the part that sounded like patriarchy?
Distribution of the BBC World Service in the United States is made possible by American Public Media, producer and distributor of award-winning public radio content, engaging audiences, creating meaningful experiences.
What are you gonna do?
APM, American Public Media.
He named himself Milky, and he praises Trump.
Time tracking, human resources, and more in one connected system. More at QuickBooks.com/workforce.
He's a weird Nazi sympathizer. Anyway, Jesus set Judas aside outside of Christianity. That's not patriarchy, dude. That's sex. Patriarchy is not sex. You would know. Yeah, I hate fascists. I hate patriarchy. I hate Trumpers. I hate fascists. Just like everybody does. Just like Jesus does. Jesus hates Trumpers and fascists and Nazis. Yeah, I'm for Jesus. I just said that right as you were typing your sentence. Jesus is for.
And a heavy attack by Iran on Thursday in the run-up to Passover and Easter.
We'll speak to a senior UN official who has visited remote parts of South Sudan as the security situation worsens.
And we'll speak to a
You like how
16-year-old
Israel's getting
Nigerian
bombed?
boy who suffers from autism and has made history after cycling across the country.
I think who suffered enough?
BBC News with Danielle
Hello, Meow Meow.
Yavetska. President Trump has threatened to wreak ever greater destruction on Iran unless
Threatening
its
more
leaders
war
do,
crimes.
as he put it, what they know they have to do. His warning came hours after experts on international law published an open letter warning of serious violations by the US, Israel, and Iran,
He's a war
highlighting Mr.
criminal.
Trump's alarming rhetoric and conduct of war.
I haven't been to that town. I've been
The
through that
Latin
town.
Patriarch of Jerusalem has held a service in the Holy Sepulchre days after Israeli police prevented him from entering the church, revered as the site of Christ's crucifixion. Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa will hold more services today and on Easter Sunday. The Burmese parliament has chosen its new president, General Min Aung Hlaing, who led the coup that overthrew Aung San Suu Kyi 5 years ago. His transition follows recent elections widely criticised as a sham. The military leader of
Yeah,
Burkina
everyone
Faso
hates
has
Trump.
his people to forget about democracy. In an interview broadcast on national television, Captain Ibrahim Traoré said he had no plans to hold elections. The commanding astronaut on board the Orion spacecraft has been describing the spectacular views as it speeds away towards the moon. Reed Wiseman said they'd seen the entire globe from pole to pole. The government in Cuba says it will release more than 2,000 prisoners as a humanitarian gesture to mark Easter. It's the second amnesty of a year in which the island has come under growing pressure from the United States. Pam Bondi has been sacked from her position as US Attorney General and replaced temporarily by President Trump's former personal lawyer, Todd Blanche. Ms. Bondi, an ally of Mr. Trump,
Yeah, everyone hates
criticised
Trump.
for her handling of the release of the files relating to Jeffrey Epstein. And state media in Pyongyang say a ceremony to bury the remains of North Korean soldiers killed fighting for Russia against Ukraine will be held later this month. BBC
Shameful.
News.
Go piss on that memorial. Just like we're gonna piss on all the graves of any American traitors, suckers, and losers who go fight Trump's illegal war in Iran. Oh yeah, Iran's gonna win. Iran is winning, and they're gonna win. But fuck Trump, fuck Putin. It's America and Iran versus Trump and Putin and Netanyahu, or the ghost of Netanyahu.
Again, by cycling across his country, his latest effort to raise awareness about autism.
What's my kind?
Thoughts on Kanye's can send us a message.
Anyway.
Remember,
See you guys later. Just wanted to get their report on,
50, 85.
what's it called? Check out the Church of Judas for how Jesus set Judas aside to replace all patriarchy, Christianity, war, and Trumpism.
Leaders do, as he put it, what they know they have to do. These comments come as his country and Israel have continued to carry out widespread airstrikes across Iran, a day after President Trump reiterated he'd bomb Iran back to the Stone Age. A bridge still being built, which Mr. Trump claimed was the biggest in Iran.
No, their Jesus is the pedophile. Their Jesus is the Antichrist Trump. The real Jesus is the opposite of all that.
Also came under heavy attack on Thursday.
Oh, cool. Nice to meet you, Sunshine.
Air raid sirens sounded across central Israel, including Jerusalem, as Jewish people prepared.
That's crazy. You're from Ireland, but you're for the genociders. How sad.
In the northern Israeli city of Nahariya, reportedly hit amid a rocket barrage from Hezbollah. Let's now speak to Alison Kaplan, an Israeli journalist and host of the podcast of the center-left newspaper Haaretz. Thank you for joining us on Newsday. First of all, just tell us about the latest in Israel and the impact of those strikes on Thursday.
Well, there have been an intensification of the missile strikes, which really haven't stopped since the beginning of the war. But there was a special emphasis.
If you're for Jesus, you should be against war, genocide.
When many Israelis are out and about trying to vacation or
My
have
ex-wife
holiday
was
meals
Polish.
with families.
Polish American.
There were 9 impact
And Hopi.
locations.
Yeah, Jesus is good.
Over the past
The real
evening,
Jesus.
woken up
The one who
several
destroys
times
Trump.
tonight. The alert systems here are excellent, which means that despite the high number of impacts from the cluster bombs being dropped by Iran, people are very disciplined about going to their shelters and their safe spaces. So there were no injuries at those 9 impact spaces, and there have been about 100 or so missiles dropped over the course of over the Passover holiday, which is about the past 48 hours.
People in Israel have.
Jesus is the anti-king of no kings, and we defeat the Antichrist Trump.
More strikes landing there in Israel. Is it changing some people's views on the war?
By the 4th week of the war, total support has declined in the Israeli public, according to this regular poll that goes out every week. It declined from 83% support to 68% who support continuing the war. So that's still a really solid majority.
I hope
but
it
it
keeps
also
dropping, though.
represents a 15-point drop after less
I
than
bet
a
it keeps
month
dropping
of
because
war.
your war
So,
is evil.
It shows that the longer the war goes, the more that it's trending down. Just to those numbers, let me just point out that their balance is that really there's a much higher majority of support among Jewish Israelis, and what pulls it down from say like 90% to 80% or 80% to 70% is the fact that the vast majority of Arab citizens of Israel are opposed to the war.
The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem has
Pulls it down, like those, like their votes don't count, other than to
Israeli police
say it
prevented
pulls
him from
down the
entering
number.
the church. Of course, this is in the run-up to Easter, but obviously Passover is also happening. And at the end of last month, Muslims were
My grandparents were probably Irish.
taking place at the Alaska Mosque, and there were some clashes around the mosque as well. Just tell us about the impact all of this is having on the 3 main religions there in Israel.
It'll be a hell of an Easter.
Everybody and all of the religions are very affected and hunkered down and affected by this war. Let me just emphasize that among the Israeli public, there's no support necessarily for oppressing other religions or non-Jews, or not letting them practice their faiths, and that much more outrage, I think, was expressed over what happened in the church than Al-Aqsa, where there have been in the past security issues and stocking of weapons, and that's been considered.
What happened in the
much more,
church?
a part of the conflict rather than
Israel
just
blocking
a
the
religious issue there. But there's
bishop
no,
from going to the
support
church, or
in the Israeli
bombing the
necessarily
church,
for
or
oppressing the practice of the other religions, and so there's a huge outcry, especially
sorry,
over
Sunshine.
the church incident, about it being
Bless you.
outrageous and both on a moral basis, and both that it's unnecessarily sparks opposition and hostility towards Israel around the world.
Briefly, Alison, we're hearing from Prime Minister Netanyahu that this
Hostility
war will
towards
carry
Israel
on.
around the
What's
world.
your sense of the Israeli government strategy
Cash.
going forward?
The Israeli
The ghost of
government
Netanyahu said
strategy
what?
is to fight as long and as much
Six-fingered
as
AI
possible.
Netanyahu
There's
said
a
what?
definite sense. I mean, this is an extreme right-wing
I'm
ideological
sorry about your
government.
mom, Sunshine.
So you have to take the government's perspective on one hand, and then you have to take the overall feeling of the Israeli leadership and the Israeli
She
public
loves
on the
you.
other. And that these weapons, these bombs, these missiles in Iran are going to be a feeling that they're going to be used against Israel at some point. And so the more that their capabilities can be degraded, the more damage that can be done to them. Obviously, there's the dream of regime change, which would eliminate the threat, but there's a belief that
Bless your
every
mom.
weapon in the hands of Iran is a threat to Israel, and therefore, every day that the war continues and every
What about every
bit
weapon in the hands of
destruction
Israel
that
is a
we
threat
reach
to
on
humanity?
Iran's capabilities to wage war and eventually
Why don't we
potential
shut down
nuclear war
everybody's
against
capabilities to
Iran
wage
is
war?
something to support. Let me just point out there's less support now for what's happening in Lebanon. Hezbollah has joined the Iranian effort, is raining drones and missiles down on northern Israel. Israel is the IDF has launched a ground invasion of soldiers there. Soldiers are dying in southern Lebanon, and that is something that the Israeli public is looking at askance because they do not want to get entrenched in another third Lebanon war. So I would say if there's more restlessness among the Israeli public, it's on what's going on in Lebanon. Strong support to fight as long and as hard in
Yep, Trump
Iran,
says Cuba's next.
as possible.
Lockdown points out that countries that don't have Rothschild banks are Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Syria. There needs to be no war. Let's get to a post-war world. Check out the Church of Judas for replacing Christianity with the Church of Judas.
With fierce fighting since December last year between government forces and opposition fighters, forcing hundreds of thousands of people from their homes.
Just a plane going overhead.
275,000 people have been displaced, most of them women and children. And there's a severe food crisis looming too, with more than 2 million children already at risk of acute malnutrition before the latest fighting. Schools have also been closed, children have been separated from their families, and there are reports of sexual violence and the recruitment of children into armed groups as well.
In America?
Well, Ted Chaban, UNICEF's Deputy Executive Director, is visiting South Sudan this week and is among the first
That was my second guess.
to reach some of the remote conflict-affected areas, notably in Jonglei State. He joins
Okay.
from South
Hopefully they
Sudan's
can do
capital,
something about that.
Welcome to the
I'm gonna have to go.
program. Where exactly have you been and what did you see?
So I was in.
We gotta stop the UAE and America apparently funding the rebels there.
In the northeast, where much of the fighting has taken place.
When they make it sound like
And
both
as
sides are bad,
indicated,
you can't
there's
tell
now
which side's
over
bad. You know America's
286,000,
supporting one of the sides.
displaced. We went to a small village called Shwil in northern Jonglei. The population is normally 6,000 people. In the last 2 months, this has expanded to 30,000 people.
I should have shut down the live 30 seconds ago. I learned my
taking
lesson.
refuge there. And up the river.